do the grandchildren who are orphans have any right on the property and wealth of the grandfather in Islam? If not, then what is the wisdom behind this ruling? The question posed is that if there's a person who has children and if his son or daughter dies and leaves children, so can the grandchildren inherit from the grandfather? And most of the people think that, okay, suppose a person has got 5 children and one child expires and he has children, so whatever his share of the inheritance can go to the grandchildren. This is totally wrong. In Islam, if a person's daughter has children, irrespective whether the person's children are alive or not, the grandchildren do not inherit at all. So, inheriting from the daughter's children, the grandchildren, from the daughter, in all cases, the grandchildren from the daughter cannot inherit. As far as grandchildren from the son, if the person has children and if his son has expired leaving children, but his other children are alive, then the grandchildren from the son also do not inherit anything. But if a person has got children and from his son he has got children and all his children expire, so if all the children expire, then the inheritance goes to the other close relatives. So in this case, the grandchildren from the son will inherit a portion. What is the wisdom? The wisdom behind why grandchildren do not inherit is because these inheritance, the shares, have been fixed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Irrespective whether children are pious or not, as long as they are children and they are in the fold of Islam, they inherit irrespective whether they're pious or they're not pious, whether they take care of the father or not father, they inherit. These are the portions, inheritance prescribed in the Quran in Surah Nisa, chapter number 4, verse number 11 and 12. There is one more verse in the Quran, Surah Ma'idah, chapter 5, verse number 108, where it says that before you die, you write down your will in inheritance. And this verse was revealed before Surah Nisa, chapter 4, verse number 11 and 12. So some of the fuqaha, some of the scholars says that once this verse was revealed of Surah Nisa, chapter 4, verse number 11 and 12, giving the shares of the children, of the wives, of the husbands, and of the mothers and the parents in detail, that verse of Surah Ma'idah and the other verse of inheritance, they are abrogated. Some scholars say no, it's not abrogated, yet it's valid. And this here refers to those shares a person is allowed to will 1/3 of his inheritance to people outside those who are actual inheritors. So these scholars say this verse is encouraging the people to write their wasiyah, the share of inheritance, maximum 1/3 they can will. Based on hadith that one of the Sahaba says, I want to will my full property. Prophet said you cannot. He said I want to will half. He said you cannot. So he said maximum you can, which is the worst, is 1/3. So 1/3 that maximum you can will outside those who are your actual inheritors, as mentioned in the Quran and the Hadith, is 1/3. So scholars say that these grandchildren who are not the actual inheritors, you can will up to 1/3 of your share. And I also agree that this verse is not abrogated. Why? Because this share mentioned in the Quran is applicable in Muslim countries who do not make a will. Even if you don't make a will or you make a will in a Muslim country which follows the Islamic law, or in India which follows the Muslim personal law, it will go as per the Quran and the Hadith. But in countries like the Western countries, USA, UK, they don't follow the Islamic Sharia. So here, according to me, it is compulsory that every Muslim living in these Western countries should mention in their wasiyah the share, what should be given to their children or to their wives, etc., as per the Quranic principle. And again here, they can will 1/3 of their property to whoever they want outside the inheritors. So here again, the logic here is that if you have children, you cannot give them more or less. But if you have grandchildren whose parents have expired, have died, you as a grandfather can will them 1/3, which is a great amount. So logic here is, and it is encouraged for those people whose children have expired, leaving grandchildren, that they bequeath some of their share to the grandchildren. So here the logic, I believe, is that here, seeing the financial situation of the grandchildren, the grandfather or the grandmother, they can bequeath, they can write in their inheritance a share according, and it can be much more than the share of the other children. Imagine if he has 10 children and one of them expires and has got grandchildren, and if he feels that the 9 of my children are there, they can take care of my grandchildren, what about this one daughter whose children have died? I mean, daughter who has died and the children are alive. So here he can even will up to 1/3. So I believe this is, alhamdulillah, good opportunity where a bigger portion of the wealth, if the grandfather wishes or grandmother wishes or the grandparent wishes, can give to the grandchildren.